Hello, thanks for joining me to hear how Ciena's Navigator Network Control Suite enables you to operate your multi-layer network smarter and faster throughout its entire lifecycle. I'm first going to introduce the capabilities of Ciena's Navigator Network Control Suite, known as Navigator NCS. We are all fully aware that market dynamics continue to grow and evolve. Consumers, whether residential or enterprise, whether over fixed or mobile access, they want reliable high bandwidth services that are always on everywhere. Services such as Gen AI applications, video streaming, smart cities, Internet of Things, and so on. You yourself probably use such applications every single day. Service and cloud providers are leveraging next-gen technologies to meet this consumer demand and are building out highly scalable and flexible networks. But today's manually intensive network operations can't handle the extreme scalability and performance requirements that these networks need. So service providers are seeking to automate operations and improve them even more with AI. As noted, currently network operations and planning processes are very manual, slow, and complex, with many handoffs between teams that are experts in their different technology layers, such as optical, Ethernet, and IP. This results in long lead times for service provisioning and activation, troubleshooting, and network planning. But network architectures are changing to satisfy scalability, performance, and sustainability requirements and new AI traffic demands. In particular, IP and optical networks are converging with the adoption of coherent pluggables that provide power, space, and cost advantages, especially in mid-distance metro areas. Operations teams need improved insights to drive optimized decisions and workflows across these evolving multi-layer, multi-vendor infrastructure. Ciena's vision is to provide a software suite that coordinates network operations across multiple layers to drive improved network assurance, workflow simplification, and optimized designs. With a single point of control to visualize and optimize multi-layer network operations, service and cloud providers can reduce costs and improve the experience for their customers. We've called this software our Navigator Network Control Suite. Navigator NCS provides that trusted single point of control to visualize and optimize multi-layer network operations. The suite includes the Navigator Multi-Layer Controller, which coordinates lifecycle operations for network infrastructure and connectivity services across multiple layers, layer 0 optical up to layer 3 IP. And building on the controller are the Navigator Intelligent Apps, which make it easier to monitor and monetize network performance. Liquid Spectrum apps provide insights for optical networks, adaptive IP apps for IP networks, and we have a set of apps for multi-layer operations. We also offer an integrated online Planner Plus tool for accurate and optimized network designs. And all of these capabilities are accessible through a variety of open interfaces, so our users can access the information they need however they want. We're also providing a new natural language interface to access AI-driven insights quickly and intuitively. And we have our emulation cloud, which serves as a digital twin to conveniently test, validate, and integrate operational workflows with Navigator in a virtual lab environment. We also offer a specialized Navigator hosted service for those customers that want to offload management of the needed IT infrastructure to our team of professional services experts. As you can see, this breadth of capabilities within a single tool is unique in the industry. In this section, I'll describe how Navigator Network Control Suite continues to build on its intelligent network control capabilities, thus enabling you to operate your networks even smarter and faster. I'm just going to give you a small feel for the intuitive Navigator GUI with a few screenshots. Navigator's main dashboard provides a single pane of glass to monitor the current state of a multi-layer network. A global search bar allows users to quickly get to whatever information they need about a site or a device or a connectivity service. That search function is available from any screen with the option of wildcards. And for each network device, there's of course an interactive shelf-level view whereby users can select and view details of every component of the hardware device, including any inserted coherent pluggable, as shown here. Coherent plugs are also visualized as part of the photonic service topology. Multi-layer service topologies can be expanded out to show all the layers, from the fiber to the photonic service, the Ethernet layer, and the IP links and services if there are some provisioned. You can also visualize traffic engineer tunnels with their primary and backup paths. Navigator correlates alarms and performance metrics across multiple layers to help prioritize what is most critical to troubleshoot first in order to keep high-value services up and running. So as you can see, Navigator supports the full life cycle of multi-layer networks: planning, commissioning, provisioning, monitoring, and troubleshooting. It's most important for Network Operations Centers users, NOC users, to get to the information they need as quickly as possible. So with Navigator, within a selected service topology view, as shown here, operators can see key performance metrics and AI-generated insights, as well as alarms that are associated with that service. At the bottom, we have the detailed subway layout, where you can see how the service traverses each individual network element and card within that network element. So all the information a NOC user needs is directly shown in the context of the service, and that saves a lot of clicking and a lot of time. Let's dig into the insights section for a second. Here we're applying AI to provide intelligence about what's happening with the service. This insight is showing that there's a concerning fiber loss trend. It's highlighted by a light bulb icon directly on the impacted OTS, the optical transport section. From here, you could launch analysis tools to investigate further. Now let's dig into the performance metrics. In this case, ESNR, electrical signal to noise ratio, is the performance metric that we're showing. Not only is the current value shown, but the values can be graphed over a specific time horizon. Here I'm showing a 7-day trend of the ESNR values for this WaveLogic 6 enabled photonic service. Another recently introduced Navigator capability is Capacity Compass. This app helps architects and planners decide what modem technology to use when planning one or more optical routes. It allows them to evaluate whether to use a transponder or a plug, a WaveLogic 6, 5, depending on the required needs for capacity, power, cost, space, and spectral efficiency. This app is available in the cloud as software as a service as part of the Planner Plus subscription. Architects start with a greenfield design or a brownfield network capture, setting custom weights on the different business parameters, and then launching the app to see the output recommendations across a set of routes. Parameter weighting can be modified and scenarios can be rerun really easily. Capacity Compass is the newest addition to our set of liquid spectrum apps, which provide detailed insights of the photonic layer. Another cloud-based app is spectrum defragmentation, which analyzes specific routes in the network to rearrange wavelength channel assignments to release continuous spectrum that can be allocated to new channels. This means that you can increase network capacity in the short term in advance of a line system build-out. Another very popular app is Pinpoint, and that localizes potential trouble spots in the fiber based on OTDR measurements, optical time domain reflectometer. That's a hard one to say, hence avoiding unnecessary truck rolls or even avoiding outages altogether. The channel margin gauge and photonic performance gauges are also super valuable to assess the health of the optical network based on SNR readings, so that operators can preemptively address issues. Now, these liquid spectrum apps are unique Ciena capabilities that help operators optimize the utilization of their photonic network. And we continue to innovate. We're building on our rich set of IP optical domain knowledge with AIOps. This domain knowledge is anchored in a holistic information model that correlates multiple technology layers. And Navigator also has a wealth of advanced apps, such as Liquid Spectrum that I just discussed. Now, these capabilities give operators that single point of software control, visualization, and optimization for managing and planning their networks. And now we're integrating leading-edge AI technologies, including Gen AI, into Navigator NCS. This brings that rich network data and analytics right to the user whenever they're needed, using a very intuitive natural language interface, our Navigator AI assistant. We're also enhancing lifecycle management for proactive assurance, optimization, and automation use cases using our agentic AI framework. Our strategy is to leverage AI to improve Navigator NCS all the more so that you, our customers, are able to operate your networks even smarter and faster. In this section, I'll be describing how Navigator Network Control Suite enables service and cloud providers to easily manage any coherent pluggable hosted in any router, not only Ciena hardware. This is essential for real-world networks that typically include equipment from several different vendors. As network architectures are converging, there are going to be more and more pluggables hosted in IP routers, especially in mid-distance metro areas. And even small routers are now capable of hosting coherent pluggables, while larger routers, such as Ciena's Wave router, can host both pluggables and transponders, as is warranted by the application. When it comes to handling pluggables from an IP perspective, IP NOC teams may not really understand the technical details of what needs to be done, and it's a bit trickier than IMDD plugs, commonly known as gray fiber. Coherent plugs need to be provisioned correctly, and if you don't do that, then the IP services which run over the optical layer won't work. Channels have to align and power levels have to be set appropriately in order to carry the signal end to end. With Ciena's Navigator NCS, you can provision end-to-end optical services easily using the GUI or through APIs. Let's delve a bit into what is really required for end-to-end optical management. First, you have to do wavelength planning. This requires you to choose the best modem technology for the capacity, power, space, distance, and cost requirements. That's what our cloud-based Capacity Compass app provides. You also need to specify a wavelength path, the spectrum channel number with its center frequency, the power level, and so on. Secondly, you need to provision the optical channel end-to-end to synchronize the wavelength to ensure that the plugs are turned to the correct power that the CMD card, the Common Management and Diagnostics card, requires. This is done with Waveline Synchronizer. It ensures that the power levels are all aligned. If you're using Ciena pluggables with Ciena routers as part of our coherent routing solution, you can benefit from even greater visibility of optical performance with our Liquid Spectrum apps. As described on the previous slide, with Navigator, you've got that end-to-end photonic management with discovery, visualization, troubleshooting, and provisioning for our WaveLogic 5 Nano, and that's done consistently with the way things are done for transponders. So NOC teams can continue to use the same workflows they've used in the past. And the same is also true for WaveLogic 6 Nano, which can now operate up to 800 gig. Capacity rates for WaveLogic can be set in increments of 100 gig depending on the distance of the needed optical route. In addition, Liquid Spectrum provides details regarding the performance of the optical line. Photonic Performance Gauge shows real-time SNR measurements relative to reference bands, giving instant visibility into the health of the photonic network, even when there are no wavelengths deployed. And with Channel Margin Gauge, you can see what optical wavelengths are underperforming or which ones are overperforming and are candidates for a capacity upgrade. In this way, you can make the best use of your infrastructure investment. Now, this example shows a channel margin gauge screenshot for a WaveLogic 5 Extreme enabled photonic service, where the last 7 days of SNR values are displayed in a histogram for each direction of the photonic service. Now, looking at the top bar, the expected long-term minimum margin is 5.4 decibels, which is better than the required margin of 4.0, which is shown by the dashed green line. The same is true for the other direction, which has a minimum margin of 5.29. And so since the photonic service is in the green zone in both directions, it's a candidate for boosting its capacity. Now, it's a reality that most IP networks and coherent routing opportunities are multi-vendor. But the good thing is that third-party routers can host Ciena coherent pluggables as well. This has been proven in many industry interop events, such as at OIF. The crucial aspect is end-to-end optical management, even though pluggables are only accessible through the third party's router's own proprietary interface. Navigator NCS provides that end-to-end photonic line management, leveraging resource adapters based on open netconf yang APIs. In fact, Any vendor's plug can be managed in any vendor's line system with Navigator NCS. Plus, with additional licensing, operators can get a clear multi-layer 3D visualization of any IP over optical service, and that's super useful for monitoring and troubleshooting. Also, Adaptive IP Apps provides full IP networking visualization and troubleshooting across multi-vendor networks. This allows you to freely mix equipment vendors on a wavelength without losing operational efficiency. Now, I mentioned OIF, and in fact, earlier this year, we showcased our multi-vendor plug management capabilities at the OFC conference as part of the OIF Interop booth. That interop focused on the seamless interface between the Coherent pluggable and the host routers. There's also complementary standards activity going on at the IETF from a network-wide point of view. Ciena is actually authoring the IETF draft for photonic plug control for the router northbound interface. So at OFC, we were able to discover the multi-vendor router hosts and the photonic services that were transported via the Coherent pluggables. We also collected alarms across the multi-vendor network and real-time performance metrics such as ESNR and prefect burr. Over the last 2 years, we've been working directly with multiple Tier 1 and Tier 2 service providers worldwide to prove out these multi-layer, multi-vendor capabilities. We're probably the only vendor who's doing this so extensively. We've worked with over 15 different router models across multiple vendors, including these ones listed here from Cisco, Nokia, Juniper, Arista, and Huawei. Our Navigator solution provides simplicity. The operators really appreciate that. They can navigate clearly across layers from IP down to optical, even with third-party line systems involved. Tools such as our problem analysis can correlate alarms across those layers and vendors in order to get to root cause of issues and weed out inconsequential alarms. This enables faster time to resolution to meet those all-important SLA thresholds. Now we also provide consistency. Operational workflows remain the same whether or not the optical services are terminated on transponders or pluggables. Operators can use the Navigator GUI or APIs equally well to rapidly execute tasks required for service delivery. Navigator also provides solid security due to its comprehensive single pane of glass management capabilities alongside user role authentication. Operators don't have to leave the tool to manage the Coherent pluggable, nor to control any required router settings. The latter can be done with an easy-to-use built-in Yang browser. So in a nutshell, what you've heard is that Navigator is the controller of choice to provide multi-layer, multi-vendor comprehensive support for Coherent plugs in any router. And that means that NOC teams gain significant simplicity, consistency, and security and can operate networks with the most operational efficiency. Well, that wraps up the entire webinar. I encourage you to explore the Ciena website to get more information about Navigator Network Control Suite and to reach out to your Ciena representative for any follow-up discussions.